You ever get that feeling that the world is just changing way too fast? I mean, so fast it's almost impossible to keep up, like we're living in a kind of runaway world? Well, you are definitely not alone. A really influential British sociologist, Anthony Giddens, pretty much dedicated his entire career to making sense of that exact feeling. So let's dive into his ideas and see if he left us a map for our chaotic modern times. Giddens himself just nails it with this quote. He believed there were, and I quote, strong and objective reasons to believe that we are going through an important period of historical transition. So we're not just talking about small tweaks here. He was talking about a fundamental rewiring of how society works, and it was happening everywhere, all at once. This one idea, it became the engine for everything he wrote. Okay, so to really get Giddens, we have to get the world he was looking at. The last few decades of the 20th century, wow, it was just this period of incredible and sometimes really disorienting transformation, a world in total overdrive. I mean, just think about the sheer speed of all this. In just a couple of decades, the entire global economic playbook gets rewritten with the rise of neoliberalism. Free markets, less government. Then, bam, almost overnight, the Cold War is over. The Soviet Union collapses. And right at that exact same moment, new tech, like the internet, just explodes and starts wiring the entire planet together. It wasn't just one thing. It was this tidal wave of changes, all crashing down at once. This is what Giddens meant by the runaway world, a world that felt like it was spinning out of our control. And it's right into this chaotic, fast-moving landscape that our main character steps onto the scene. So let's get a proper introduction to the guy who tried to draw us a new map for this strange new world, Anthony Giddens. So here's the quick rundown. Born in London in 1938, Giddens became this absolute giant in British academia, eventually running the super prestigious London School of Economics. And his work wasn't just focused on one little thing. No, he tackled massive themes, modernity, globalization, even how the family was changing. But out of all of that, two ideas really stand out. His concept of reflexive sociology and his big political idea, the third way. All right, let's get to the heart of it. How did Giddens think modern society actually works? Well, it all boils down to this really fascinating idea that we're all kind of living in a giant social mirror. Giddens kicks things off with a huge question. For, most of human history, tradition was our GPS. It told you how to live, who to marry, what job to do, everything. But in our modern, runaway world, tradition's grip has gotten a lot weaker. So, if that old map is gone, how in the world are we supposed to find our way? And his answer is his really powerful concept, reflexivity. All it means is that modern society is constantly looking at itself. We gather information about ourselves, about our own actions, and then we use that information to change what we do next. It's a non-stop feedback loop. Think about it. We track public health data to change our diets, or businesses use analytics to guess what you're going to buy next. We're a society that is literally studying and remaking itself in real time. But all this constant change creates a totally new kind of danger. Giddens had a name for it: manufactured risk. Now, these are not like the old risks, a famine or a plague, things that felt like bad luck. No, these are risks we've literally created ourselves through our own progress. We're talking about the threat of nuclear war or massive environmental disasters. They're a direct result of our own actions. This stuff is on us. So when he's faced with this runaway world of constant change and self-made risks, Giddens didn't just write books about it and call it a day. He actually proposed a new political path forward, and it became incredibly influential. At the time, politics just felt stuck, On one side, you had the old left, the traditional socialists who believed in total state control, which by then just felt kind of creaky and outdated. And on the other side, you had the new right, the neoliberals, who said the free market could solve everything, even if it led to huge inequality. Giddens looked at these two options and basically said, nope, neither one of these is equipped for the world we actually live in now. So what he came up with was the third way. And it's super important to know, this wasn't just about splitting the difference or meeting in the middle. It was a serious attempt to create a genuinely new alternative. The whole idea was to take those core social democratic values, things like community and taking care of each other, and update them for a super fast-paced, globalized, and risky world. So the third way was all about a new social contract, right? It was this idea of shared responsibility between the government and us, the citizens. It also drags those manufactured risks, especially the environmental crisis, right into the center of politics. The big goal here wasn't to stop the world from changing, that's impossible, but to figure out how, as Giddens put it, to take the reins and steer this runaway world a little more carefully.
And here's the thing. This was not just some academic theory stuck in a book. The third way went global. I mean, it had a massive, real-world impact on politics from Europe all the way to the Americas.
In fact, Giddens ended up being a personal advisor to the British Prime Minister Tony Blair, but his influence went way beyond the UK. You had leaders like President Bill Clinton in the US and even Fernando Henrique Cardoso, a sociologist who became president of Brazil. All of them were reading, discussing, and using parts of third-way thinking. It was an idea that truly shaped a whole era of global politics.
So, now that we're a few decades down the road, where does this all leave us? What's the real lasting legacy of Anthony Giddens and his big attempt to map our modern world? You know, maybe his greatest gift was that he gave us a new vocabulary for our time. Words like reflexivity and manufactured risk, they weren't just jargon. They were, and it still are, essential tools for making sense of a world where our own success creates our biggest problems and where our choices are constantly remaking the world around us. And that leaves us with one last really big question. Today, we're facing even crazier political polarization and a whole new set of manufactured risks, right? From the climate crisis barreling down on us to the rise of AI. So, are Giddens' ideas about finding a third way and grabbing the reins still a good guide? Or has our runaway world sped up so much that we just need a completely new map? That's definitely something to think about.